So test is block day. So for first, third, fifth, seventh, that would be Wednesday. If you're watching the video later, whatever, the evens are Thursday, the odds are Wednesday. Divided into two parts, no calculator part that we'll start with.
How are you doing?
We'll copy them separately, and you'll turn one in and then get a calculator and do the second part. In fact, ask me that again after I lay this out, because I'll explain how we'll do it. 5, solve quadratics. You pick the method. Right, so some will factor, some you could do square root method, as long as b is not there. Some of you will do quadratic formula on all of them. That takes a little longer, that's a little annoying, but hey, if it's the only method you know, then do what you got to do, I guess. But 5 of them, you pick how you want to solve them. 2 inequalities, quadratic inequalities. And you might remember there were 2 types of inequalities that we did. There was the graph it on like an XY graph, where you shade above or below, dash versus dotted line, shade above or below. And then one that was, one that's 2D and one that's 1D. So one of them ends up on a number line, and one of them ends up on the XY graph. The number line one, that's where you pick points on the interval, or you sketch in the parabola and figure out where it's above or below your number line. 2 that are change standard to vertex form. Standard form to vertex form. Do you remember what you have to do that? I mean, that's push one to the side. Is that what you said? That's the very first thing. What's like the name of that method? I mean, you're right. The first thing you do is push that last one. It's complete the square. And it's sort of one-sided complete the square. Because you don't do anything on the other side. You just kind of move things around. So yeah, you push C just kind of out to the end. Half it, square it, add it. And then account for the thing that you added. And then 2 multiple choice. I would classify those as review/challenge type questions. So, not really much you could do to study for them, other than make sure you know everything you're supposed to know. Then the calculator portion. Pretty much everything is just one of each of these. Discriminant. Do you remember what the discriminant is? B squared minus 4AC, not including the square root, right? Just the stuff inside the square root. B squared minus 4AC. And what does it tell you?
What kind of solutions?
What kinds of solutions you have. Right? So you either have 2 real, you have 1 real, or you have 2 imaginary, depending on what the sign of B squared minus 4AC. A quadratic formula with the calculator, so that's one where we'll get probably a decimal answer. We'll also ask you to do quadratic formula, so if you had avoided it in the first 5 questions, which you might have, we'll force you into one for this section. Systems. There was a whole worksheet on linear and quadratic systems. How does a line intersect a parabola? Right, maybe twice, maybe once, maybe none at all. So one of you usually do not need a calculator on that. You're right. Usually in math class, certainly moving forward, certainly on the AP test, on the calculator portion, you don't really need a calculator on most things, or at least on some things. Like discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, you don't really need a calculator for that. If the numbers are ugly, maybe the calculator's nice, but it's not absolutely mandatory. Things you would definitely need a calculator for are the word problems. So one of them is the launched object problem, because that's a quadratic, and we can ask you all sorts of questions. And it is a multi-part question, like how high was it when it was kicked? How high did it go? When did it reach its height? When did it land? All those standard questions. And then one regression question. It's not even called a regression, but that's when you use the stat edit and the stat calc to find the equation. Right, we give you data points, you come up with the equation, and then we can ask you questions once you have the equation.
How much vortex is the first part?
I don't know. Is it right here? Let's see.
More than the second part, or is it the second part?
That's a fair question. I haven't proofed this, so we'll see if this adds up to 100. So 30 total points for the solving quadratics. I'll let you do the math if you want to figure out how much each one is worth. 12 total points for the inequalities.
15.
Thank you. Good work on your division. 10 total points for change standard to vertex. Go ahead. How many is that each? 5. Man, you guys are great. The multiple choice, total of 6. Let's see. Discriminant question is worth 4. Quadratic formula is 6. Systems is 8, right? Because there's lots of pieces to that. An object is launched. Let's see what that says. It doesn't say, so I have to figure that out. And stat calc, stat edit, that one's worth a total of 6. So we'll do a little math right here and figure this out. So that makes 58. And right here we're up to 10, 24. But I want to get to 100, or at least close to 100. So I need 18 more points.
It's probably the object log.
Well, that's what I'm trying to see. Is there 6 pieces to the object? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You could just give us like
I sure could.
You know that we have 58 for our half. That we just
So that adds up to 97. So you get 3 free points for putting your name on the paper. Congratulations. So that object launched, make sure, right, that's worth 15 points. We did several of those, so make sure you understand those, because that's a big chunk there. Okay, how this will work, to Emery's question from earlier, like, well, how do we do the no calculator and the calculator part? I will give you both parts. No calculator, of course, to start with. So I'll give you both parts. Most people will work the calculator part, turn it in, and grab a calculator. That's fine. What some people will do is work the no calculator, then work as much of the calculator as they can. Like, you could probably do the discriminant. You could certainly set up the quadratic formula. Eli already mentioned that you really don't even need a calculator for the systems one. The word problem, you could read it and get things set up. So you work through that. Then you go back and check the no calculator because maybe you left one or two blank. Maybe something is triggered in your brain, and you go back and fix that. Once you got all that cleaned up, then you turn in the no calculator, grab your calculator, and hopefully in 10 or 15 minutes finish this off because you've already done most of the work.
It's 16 questions.
So I don't know how many questions that adds up to. That's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yes, 16, but the object launch question is like 5 parts, and the regression question is like 2 parts. So not exactly 16. So does that make sense? Like, I'll give you everything. That also helps you with time. So like, you can peek ahead, and even before you grab your calculator, you can see the calculator questions. And it's a block day, so I don't think time will be an issue anyway. Okay, that's the test outline. And a little bit of review as we went there. Right, that adds up to 97. Close enough. 3 points for your name.